This is the TSIM Meta Training Introduction video. Job 1 when you're on the field is to stay on tag. This includes when bombing or when running. The reason we do this is something called AoE math. AoE math basically uses the Guild Wars 2 system to our advantage. Almost all abilities in Guild Wars 2 that are not Siege have a player limit of 5 targets. This means if you have 50 TSIM directly in a spot and an enemy throws fire on that spot, only 5 of the 50 will take any damage. When an enemy Zerg is burning out on our group, the odds that all of them are going to hit the same 5 targets are very, very slim, basically allowing us to get free survivability just by staying together. In addition to staying on tag, please be on Discord. You do not need a mic, but you do need to be there to listen to your commander's orders and switch as needed. Lastly, be on meta. This is how we survive and kill. Our meta builds are designed to help each other out and be maximum effectiveness for the group as a whole. Make sure your build matches the meta build as closely as you possibly can. And if you have any trouble getting yourself meta ready, you need to contact somebody in guild or the GM. Let's go over some plays that you'll find on the field. Might up. The might up play is to prepare for damage. This is usually using might stacking abilities, fury stacking abilities, or just anything that the team will need to push out there. My boon share mesmers will be waiting to the end of this call before they boon share. Fallback. The fallback play is when we need to create distance between the enemy group. Sometimes this is using dodge, sometimes this is just simply distancing yourself from the enemy. Surge. The surge play is when we want to close distance, typically following a bomb. If we choose to surge to an enemy, be aware of the commander's location. Do not overtake the commander. The commander may push right up to a damage point. If you distance past that commander, you are putting yourselves in bomb range, and the enemy will kill you. The pull bomb. This is a joint call for the mesmers and the damage. The mesmers will use their focus skill to pull targets to a point called. The damage will then dump damage on that point, killing the targets that they grab. The shatter play. The shatter call is designed to make ourselves difficult to gather and difficult to damage. This is also called a cloud. When you spread out from the commander and you spread out from each other, you become a very difficult target to catch. If the Zerg pushes towards you while you are shattered, you run away. If the Zerg is chasing one section and is running parallel to you, you bomb out on that Zerg from the sides and pace them, but stay at max range. If you are behind the Zerg and they run away from you, you pace them and chase after them, continuing to bomb out. Keep in mind, if the Zerg is pushing towards you, you need to get clear. A lot of our survivability is lost during the shatter play, but we gain survivability by not being an easy target to hit. Disengage. The disengage play is simply what it sounds like. Disengage combat, get yourself clear, immediately get back on the commander. And lastly, wipe it. This might seem like a self-explanatory play, but it is designed to get ourselves back on the line and back in fighting condition as quickly as possible. If you hear wipe it, you need to either dive into the enemy Zerg and die, if that's faster, or run away from combat and port back. I don't care which, the commander won't care which. Get yourself back to spawn, and get yourself on tag for another push. This is not time to merchant, and this is not time to do bag management unless the commander calls for it.
Hi guys, my name's Eric. I'm a commander with TSIM, and I'm also a class master, and I'm going to explain to you how to use Herald, or our Herald build today. So the way you're going to do it is we have a few phases that Herald runs with. there's going to be idle phase and damage phase. So just those two phases that you're going to need to worry about right now. We also have one called defensive phase, or the way you're going to hear TJ call it, it's going to be Rite of the Great Dwarf phase, but it is a very, very defensive phase. Idle phase is going to be where you're going to be pulsing your facet of nature, your facet of elements, and your facet of darkness. Now they all fluidly go together. Let's say we're going to go ahead and transition now into DPS phase. Now, one thing to note is when you get into either phase, defensive or bomb phase, you're going to drop the facets that you are using in idle phase. So with, let's say TJ was calling a bomb over here, I would drop all of my facets, and I'd come up here and I would do my bomb. Now, the bomb consists of doing literally 2 skills. It sounds easy, but it's not. It's going to consist of you doing a lot of things. You're going to go ahead and cast your Coalescence of Ruin, which we call COR, or abbreviated COR, and your Phase Smash. Now, Phase Smash basically moves your model character up to this spot right here. So this is where I will end up. My physical character will end up here at some point when I cast Phase Smash. And that is why we take advantage of the fact of utilizing things like Hydromancy and Song of the Mist. And the way that works is on bomb phases, you come up here, you cast your Coalescence of Ruin, you cast your Phase Smash, and then 80% you're going to swap Legends. And the reason being is because it moves your character up there, you're going to hit him with Song of the Mist, and you're going to hit him with Hydromancy. It's very important that you get that off. And it's going to be a little tricky at the beginning, but the way you do that is when you cast your Phase Smash, at 80% swap Legends. And if you notice, I'm going to hit him with multiple things. I'm going to hit him with Hydromancy, and I'm going to hit him with Song of the Mist. And depending on your lag will depend on where you're going to swap Legends at. So it's going to be important that you figure out that sweet spot and just remember it. I had a few people ask if macros are possible. They are, but I don't recommend it because your ping does change. Now we're going to go into defensive mode. Now remember, no matter what phase you go into, you're going to go out of idle mode, you're going to drop your facets, and you're going to go into right into depending on what mode you're going. So when you go into defensive mode, there's a few things you can transition from. You might be in Great Dwarf, which you will stay, but we're going to talk about is if you transitioned out of being in Glint or Legendary Dragon Stance. What you're going to do immediately when you cast that is you're going to cast your Facet of Light. You're going to cast your Facet of Chaos. Now, when you cast your Facet of Chaos, if you look right there, it's a dragon. You notice I had it pointed at this arrow. This arrow represents your raid. And the reason being is when you cast your Facet of Chaos, you're going to supply your entire team, or probably just your group, with super speed. Then you're immediately going to swap Legends. And the only thing you're going to cast while you're in here is Rite of the Great Dwarf. Now, there's a few caveats to this that you guys are going to need to make sure. You're going to need to make sure that your Facet of Nature is not procced. You're going to need to make sure that you are not utilizing any of your attack abilities, such as Coalescent of Ruin or dropping the hammer or any of your fields, any of your abilities. The only thing you are going to be casting consistently is Rite of the Great Dwarf. Now, the cool thing is, since you're going to be literally dumping all of your energy into Rite of the Great Dwarf, you're going to be able to almost keep 100% dwarf uptime. So you're going to, when you notice when you cast it, it's going to supply 5 seconds of Rite of the Great Dwarf. You're going to pay attention to that boon on your screen, and you're going to see that every 5 seconds right before it goes down. So if you watch me, you're going to see I'm going to cast it. Now you're going to see it count down. Right at 1, I'm going to go ahead and cast it again. And then I'm going to wait, and then I'm going to be able to cast it again right before it comes up, and boom, there's 15 seconds of Rite of the Great Dwarf. Now, when you get to this transitional phase right after this, hopefully your team isn't dead. You're going to transition to probably damage phase or idle phase. But we're going to talk about is if you go into damage phase. The first thing you're going to cast is right when you get out of damage phase, you're going to cast your Facet of Nature, and you're immediately just going to double tap it to be able to cast and get all of your get those buffs out. The second thing you're going to cast is Inspiring Reinforcement. Now you're going to want to aim that at your team. We abbreviate Inspiring Reinforcement as roads. So you're going to hear people call roads. And you're going to cast that immediately back onto your phase, and then you're going to swap right over to Glint. And then you're going to go right into your bomb phase from here. And you should be able to get good at practicing to be fluidly going into all of those phases. The only time you will not double tap your Facet of Nature is when you're going into idle phase.
Go ahead.
Hi, I'm Eric. I'm one of the commanders of TSIM. I'm also one of the class masters for Warrior. And I'm going to explain to you on where and what and how to use your Winds of Disenchantment, or you're going to hear it be called WOT, is our abbreviation for it. Now, one of the trickiest things about dropping a wad is a commander will, if you look right now and you look straight ahead and you look for the arrow down, a commander is usually going to call for a wad there, or they're going to call for a wad there. And so depending on where the enemy Zerg is where they're going to need it. But the fact is movement's a big key in World versus World. There's a lot of movement. And so a lot of the time you're going to have to adjust on where, when, and how to put it on him when he needs it. So he might put out a marker there, say put it on him, but they're going to be moving here, say over towards Star. So what you're going to want to do is they're starting over here at Arrow and they're moving over towards Star. Depending on, you're going to have to watch two raids. Most people think they're going to run right to here to drop a wad. That's not always correct. Because if they're moving there, sometimes dropping the wad right about here is where they're going to be, or right here. And so being able to read them and when of how they're going to be is going to be key on where you drop the wad. And you're going to gain that with experience. So to give you a good example, if TJ were to call for a wad right now, he said, I need a wad on top of them, and say that they're on that arrow. Where you're going to put the wad is, let's say they're going to be moving to Star. To give you kind of like an idea of where to put it, when he calls it, he says, okay, I need to move it. And now they're moving towards Star. I'm going to move directly right here. I'm going to pop balance stance first, and then I'm going to cast my wad. That's very important, because the way you're going to see how we have warriors build up is we don't have them built to be able to get stab from anywhere else. They're generally a floater. So it's going to be very important that you pop your own stab. And one of the biggest mistakes we see is we see a lot of people popping their balance stance here before they get here. Balance stance goes before your wad, and then wad goes out. And that's something to take and consider is Winds of Disenchantment is a 1.12 second cast. So plan on a 1.5 second cast. So you don't want to go ahead and start here, and TJ says, okay, I need a wad him. I need an aggressive wad on top of them now. Like I said, they're starting there on Arrow. They're moving towards Star. Then you move here, and then you go ahead and start casting your wad. That's not how it works. So to give you a good example, to gauge where it is I'm going to start casting my wad where Arrow is now. So if you see right here, I'm going to cast wad here, and then I'm going to cast balance stance here, because this is where I'm going to take damage. And that's going to lead right into the second part of casting a wad. One of the biggest things that you can do that is asked of our warriors is not only to drop the wad, but what happens after the wad. You don't just die. What you're going to do now is you're going to cause a hell of a lot of hell. So you're probably going to immediately start casting a bunch of damage here. You're going to probably want to do your Earthshaker twice. And the way you cast Earthshaker twice is you Earthshaker into full counter into Earthshaker right here. Second is after you've done a little bit of damage and stuns on top of them, TJ's going to probably move here. So TJ, if you can move right here. When the commander moves there, after you've done your little bit of damage and your especially your utility cooldowns are coming down, you're going to want to get out. And that's what your greatsword's for. A lot of people mistake greatsword as damage. I can come in here and just do 100 blades. Now, greatsword is incredible damage, but the damage is mostly going to be done by using your whirl attack and getting out like that. And then you're out. So to put this into full circle, if you can come back here. Pretend right now on Arrow is where the enemy Zerg is, and they're moving. They can be moving left or right. Take that. They can be moving at us. They can be moving anywhere, but you need to pay attention of where they're moving, because when he calls that wad, you are going to need to be able to react fast to where they're moving and then make it a good position of where it's going to be. So let's say they're moving from the way we're looking at it now. They're going to be moving towards Star. You are going to run this way. You're going to cast your wad about here. You're going to cast balance stance right here on top of them, and the wad will go down. Reason being is because now TJ, seeing where they're going to go, move here, right on top of Arrow. Now you're going to go into your damage phase. You're going to cast Earthshaker. You're going to immediately hit your full counter, and then you're going to Earthshaker again. You're going to hit your breaking enchantments, and then you're going to use Greatsword to get back out and live. That's it.
All right, you're recording.
Hi guys, my name's Eric. I'm a commander in TSIM, and I'm also a class master. And I'm going to go over today the Scourge and how we run it and play it in TSIM. Now, Scourge is really the jack of all trades. It's literally right now one of the strongest classes in World v. World, in our opinion, because of a few things. One, it does incredible amounts of damage, but it also, while doing the damage at the same time, does a lot of passive healing and cleaning on the raid team, and we're going to go over how to prioritize those. And we're also going to go over your elite Ghastly Breach. The first thing we're going to start off with is your marks. If you notice here over at Star, you have a bunch of marks. You can just throw them out here. You're going to hear a lot of these are used several, and these are also used in sieges to be able to do pull bombs. And that's the first one we're going to go over. So pretend TJ is calling for a pull bomb over on Star. He's going to go ahead and start counting it down. The only thing that Necro has to do is throw up all his marks right there. You don't wait for the countdown to start throwing your marks. You throw all your marks there and then wait for him to finish the countdown, because the countdown is primarily going to be for Heralds and for Mesmers and Guardians doing the pulls. Your main job is to get as many marks in that area where he is going to get pulled right off. Now, there's two things to note about this. When he's doing a pull bomb, generally we're going to be sieging. So if you look over where Belcorn is right now, pretend that this is where he wants to do his pull bomb. He's going to call it. I'm going to drop all my marks there. Immediately after he calls that pull bomb, pretend Arrow straight ahead is where the siege is, and that's where the wall is. You're going to immediately paint back up to go ahead and protect the wall from siege. So you're going to be doing two things. You're going to be transferring your marks to wherever the pull bomb is, such as Star, and then you're going to immediately start reapplying them as they come off cooldown back to go ahead and protect siege. Now, marks can go literally be used. They can also be used as zoning. So pretend right now an enemy team is moving from Arrow over to Star. Pretend we don't want to be pushed on. You're going to sometimes hear TJ say, put marks out in front of you. This doesn't mean that you just put them out in front of you if they are moving towards Star. You are going to put them in the direction of which they will be going or coming at you. So if they're pushing on top of us, you will put them down right on top of us. If they're pushing to the left, and it's very important that you watch where and when that enemy Zerg is going to be or group is going to be, and you zone them with that. Now we're going to go over the F-bomb. Now, a lot of people think that means fuck, but really what that is the bread and butter of the Scourge and how you do your damage. Generally, when you're going to cast your F-bomb is when you hear TJ call for a bomb, and he is going to put a placement there. So let's say I am right now where the commander is, and he is going to want to bomb out right on top of him. You're going to start out with throwing a Sandshade down immediately. And now there is a priority list, and this is going to be your F skills. The first F skill you're going to hit once he calls a bomb is going to be your F5. The second one you're going to hit is your F2. Then you're going to hit your F3, and then your F4. Now, I know that seems kind of funny, but what you're doing is you're going to want to build those muscle memories to be able to build those. So again, what it's going to be is you're going to immediately drop down. You're going to hit F5, F2, F3, F4, and that is your bomb. Now, we're going to go over a couple ways on how to do this bomb. The great thing is, and this is one thing we've been introducing to our guys new, is how to blow up behind you. So a lot of you are going to want to make a hotkey if you go and you hit Escape, and you go to Options, and you go down to Controls. You're going to go down and you're going to find Camera. When you get down to Camera in those keys, you're going to find a thing that's going to call Look Behind You. It is vital that you make a very accessible hotkey to be able to put there that you are still going to be able to function. So you're going to hold that hotkey down, which is called Look Behind You. And once you've done that, that's you can still do your F-bomb and still use all your skills. And the reason being is because Necros can do what I call an invisible bomb. So if I'm running away from TJ, which you'll see here, I can bomb him as I leave. If you noticed, my character did not turn around to do that bomb on him. This is a very great new skill that Necros can do, and that is that you can literally wipe a Zerg while you're running away. So it's vital that you guys get a Look Behind You key, and that you do when we're moving. If you hear someone say "bomb behind you," you literally hit that key to look behind you, and you bomb behind you. Now to go into the phases of a Necro. You're obviously what you saw there is the damage phase. Now we're going to go into heal phase. Now pretend right here is my raid, and let's say TJ blows up on me. TJ, if you have Life Force, can you start doing damage to me? Okay, as you can see here, I'm taking a lot of damage. The first thing you're going to want to pop here is your Ghastly Breach to give some stability. The second thing you'll want to pop is your F2, which is your Nefarious Favor, which is going to remove conditions and replace them with booms, which is helpful. But the biggest one you can do is pop your heal. Pop your Sand Flare, which is called your heal, and that's the heal we use in our build. So anytime that we can't stress that enough. When we are taking a lot of damage, you will literally stop doing your F-Bomb and you will hit your Sand Flare and your Sand Cascade, which is your F3. Those two skills can make or break whether we die or live, regardless of our heals, because of the fact of how much barrier it can give. So again, to go over, if you see a lot of damage coming out on the team, you might hear one of the commanders call Necros pop your heals. You should be popping it already. You should immediately just pop your Sand Flare. Now we're going to go over your Ghastly Breach. Ghastly Breach is used for literally two different things. When we are surging on top of a group, you're going to go ahead and pop it, or you're going to do it if we're being pushed on. Now, there is one caveat. If we are running past downs, it's vital that you drop and stop. So say right here, we just surged onto Star. Let's say we surged on it and we got downs, and now the enemy team moved off back to Arrow. Let's say I have 4 or 5 downs here, but TJ is taking the raid to Arrow. I would pop my Ghastly Breach, and then I would keep moving and bombing and doing whatever I'm going to be doing. But that skill is primarily saved for when we are being pushed on, or pushing on top, or solidifying downs. Now, it's vital that if we're being pushed on, that you guys start, you pop your Trail of Anguish, and then you pop your Ghastly Breach, because there's a good chance that you are going to be getting bombed and you won't get it off. And a lot of Necros have died of not popping their Ghastly Breaches, or have been trying to pop their Ghastly Breaches with no stability. So Trail of Anguish is going to be your bread and butter. Another thing to note is when Necros are doing damage, there's 2 different types of damage we can do. We can do range damage, where you'll see here, where I'll throw out my Sandshade and blow up. The other one is, pretend TJ is the front of the raid, and Star is the back of the Zerg that we're fighting. You would want to put your Sandshade in the back here while bombing here, and the reason being is because Necros defy what we call the AoE rule of 5 people. You can potentially be hitting 10 people, and the reason being is because your character also counts as a Sandshade. So you are going to want to, the way you are going to maximize your damage output is by putting your body near as many targets as you can, and your Sandshade as many targets as you can. As you noticed here, when I cast my Sandshade out on Star, I am hitting TJ with my Sand Flare. And that is because all of your F1 abilities, or all of your F abilities, count for on the Sandshade and on your character. That's it.